The days since the accident had been unforgiving. My once vibrant life had become a dreary routine of solitude and introspection. I kept to myself in my small house on the outskirts of town, away from the prying eyes of neighbors and friends. The laughter and joy that once filled the rooms had faded into a distant memory, leaving me to face the endless silence of my own thoughts. As the years slipped away, I found solace in the quiet corners of my home, where I could escape the painful reminders of the family I'd lost. My only company was the sound of my own footsteps echoing through the empty hallways, and the rustling of the newspaper as I unfolded it each morning. One chilly autumn morning, my life took an unexpected turn. I opened the front door to fetch my newspaper, and there, on my doorstep, was an injured, shivering stray dog. His coat was matted, and his eyes were filled with a mixture of fear and hope. I hesitated, not knowing what to do, but something in his eyes compelled me to act. "Hey there, buddy," I murmured gently, as I knelt down beside him. "You're in rough shape, aren't you?" The dog whimpered softly, his eyes never leaving mine. I carefully picked him up, cradling him in my arms, and brought him inside. I found an old blanket and wrapped him in it, settling him down by the fireplace. As I tended to his wounds and fed him, I could sense his gratitude and trust. I decided to name him Max. Over the next few days, Max's condition improved, and with it, so did my spirits. I found myself talking to him, sharing stories about my wife, Emily, and our young son, Jack. I told him about the accident that had ripped them away from me and how the world had become a darker place ever since. Max listened intently, his eyes filled with understanding and compassion. As I confided in Max, I realized that he had come into my life for a reason. He had given me a reason to care, to feel, and to open my heart once more. In those first days together, Max and I formed an unbreakable bond that would change the course of my life forever. In the weeks that followed, Max and I became inseparable. His playful and affectionate nature breathed new life into my once lonely existence. I found solace in our daily walks, and his exuberant energy filled my home with laughter and joy. As we explored the nearby woods together, I discovered a newfound appreciation for the beauty of nature and the simple pleasure of companionship. One sunny afternoon, as Max and I played fetch in the front yard, I noticed my neighbor Susan watching us from her porch. I hadn't spoken to her much since the accident, but she'd always been kind and understanding. "Max is quite the charmer," Susan called out, smiling warmly as she approached us. "Yeah, he's been a real blessing," I replied, scratching Max's head affectionately. "You know, Peter, it's been wonderful seeing you out and about again. Max seems to have brought some light back into your life." Her words struck a chord within me. I hesitated, then found myself opening up to Susan about the impact Max had on me. I told her how his companionship had softened the sharp edges of my grief and how I had begun to rediscover the simple joys of life. Susan listened attentively, her eyes filled with empathy. When I had finished, she gently suggested that perhaps it was time for me to take the next step in my healing journey. "Peter, have you ever considered joining a support group? I think it might help you connect with others who have experienced similar losses." The idea had never crossed my mind, but Susan's words planted a seed of hope. Maybe I wasn't destined to be alone after all. Maybe, with Max by my side, I could find the strength to face my grief and build a new life. "I'll think about it, Susan," I promised, as Max dropped the ball at my feet, his tail wagging excitedly. "Thank you for the suggestion." As Susan walked back to her house, I couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude for the unexpected friendship that had brought me this far. With Max as my faithful companion, I felt ready to take the first steps toward healing and embracing the future. The seed of hope that Susan had planted continued to grow, and with Max's unwavering support, I mustered the courage to attend my first support group meeting. As I walked into the community center, my heart raced with anxiety. But the moment I stepped into the room, I was met with warm smiles and understanding eyes. The group leader, a kind woman named Angela, welcomed me and introduced me to the others. As we went around the circle, each person shared their story of loss and the journey that had brought them to the group. I listened intently, feeling a sense of kinship with these strangers who had experienced the same pain I had. When it was my turn to speak, I hesitated, unsure if I could find the words. But as I glanced down at Max, who sat loyally at my feet, I found the strength to share my story. "My name is Peter," I began, my voice wavering. "I lost my wife, Emily, and my son, Jack, in a car accident several years ago. Since then, I've been struggling." The room was silent, the air heavy with empathy. John, a middle-aged man with kind eyes, spoke up. "Peter, thank you for sharing. I lost my daughter in a car accident too. I know how hard it is to open up, but I promise you, it gets easier. We're all here for each other." His words struck a chord within me, and I knew I had found a safe space to heal. Over the next few months, I attended the support group meetings regularly, forging connections with the other members and learning to cope with my grief. One evening, after a particularly emotional session, John approached me. "Peter, I've noticed a change in you since you started coming here. You're opening up more, and it seems like you're finding some peace. I think Max has played a big part in that, hasn't he?" I nodded, my eyes welling up with tears. "Max saved me, John. He taught me that it's okay to love again, to feel again. He's been the most loyal friend I could ever ask for." As the weeks turned into months, I continued to grow and heal, buoyed by the support of my newfound friends and the unwavering love of my faithful companion, Max. Together, we faced my grief head-on, and I found the strength to rebuild my life, one step at a time. As the seasons changed, so did my outlook on life. With Max by my side and the support of my newfound friends, I rediscovered passions I had long neglected. One day, after a support group meeting, John invited me to join a painting class he attended. "I think you'd enjoy it, Peter. It's a great way to express yourself and connect with others," he encouraged. I hesitated, but the excitement in John's eyes convinced me to give it a try. The following week, I found myself standing in front of a blank canvas, my heart pounding with anticipation. The instructor, Lily, a spirited woman with a warm smile, guided us through the process. As my brush danced across the canvas, I felt a sense of freedom and joy I hadn't experienced in years. The colors seemed to come alive, reflecting the emotions buried deep within me. Over time, I formed a close friendship with Lily, who encouraged me to explore my creativity and see the beauty in the world around me. Inspired by the positive changes in my life, I decided to become more involved in my community. I began volunteering at a local animal shelter, where I met Sarah, a dedicated veterinarian with a heart of gold. She introduced me to Tom, a fellow volunteer who, like me, had once been lost in grief. As we worked together to care for the animals, Tom and I formed a strong bond. We shared our stories and supported each other in our healing journeys. Through our mutual love for animals and our shared experiences, we found solace and understanding. One evening, after a long day at the shelter, I returned home to find Max waiting for me on the porch. As I sat down beside him, I couldn't help but reflect on the incredible journey we had shared. From the depths of despair, Max had led me to a life filled with hope, friendship, and purpose. "Thank you, Max," I whispered, as he nuzzled his head against my chest. "You've given me a second chance at life, and I'll be forever grateful." As the sun set on another day, I knew that my life had been irrevocably changed for the better. With the love and support of my faithful companion and the friends who had become like family, I had found the strength to heal, grow, and embrace the future with open arms.